Because these people have incentive to try and come here, and a lot of them die and are injured along the way.
That videotape reminds me of what happened in Europe when there was a march across Europe by a million people who wanted to get into Western Europe. Angela Merkel let them in. Open borders,
and
let them in.
It was the downfall of Germany. It was one of the worst things that ever happened to Germany. This president knows that. He's trying to prevent that from happening here. But Congress has got to get their act together and do the right thing here for the American people.
Lara Trump.
Nope, nothing I can think of that has ever contributed more to the downfall of Germany than, as Lara Trump says, Angela Merkel welcoming refugees. Not a single thing worse for Germany in history. By the way, this isn't the first piece of evidence of this administration's tenuous grasp of history, specifically the Holocaust. Sean Spicer famously absolved Hitler of using chemical weapons during a war where he was notorious for killing Jews with chemical weapons.
We didn't use chemical weapons in World War II. You know, you had someone as despicable as Hitler who didn't even sink to using chemical weapons.
But now Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, is back to drumming up anti-immigrant sentiment on Fox Business because that is serious business news and Fox is a legitimate network. And if it feels like Republicans just talk about migrant caravans on an endless loop now, that's because the GOP has nothing else to run on. With 2020 Democratic hopefuls touting policy proposals that are incredibly popular with Americans, like acting on climate change, Medicare for all, restoring net neutrality, raising taxes on the ultra-rich, prison reform, and expanding voting rights, Republicans are resorting to their one and only strategy, fear-mongering. Every time an immigrant so much as takes a walk, Fox News and Republicans are there to warn you that they're likely coming to sell you drugs or murder you. Seriously though, here's a clip of a Fox News host standing in Guatemala harassing people for the crime of walking down the street and warning Americans back home that a dangerous new caravan is on its way.
On the northern portions of Mexico are steeling themselves for more problems. So what is Mexico going to do different this time, Steve?
You really, as we can see, some more, it looks like a very young man here. ¿Cuántos años usted? He looks to be about 16 or 17, most of them carrying just one sack.
But Fox News and Republicans need to focus on scaring their supporters because they don't have any popular policies to run on. Their tax bill giving a $1.5 trillion tax cut to corporations and the ultra-wealthy pulls underwater, along with their refusal to even acknowledge the existence of climate change, much less act on it, their repealing of net neutrality, their continued efforts to hobble Obamacare, voter suppression techniques, and forget legislating, they can barely keep themselves out of prison. We have credible evidence that the Trump administration was willing to accept help from a hostile foreign power to meddle in our last election, and 10 instances of obstruction of justice by the President of the United States. 5 of his campaign members have been sentenced to prison time. They have no choice but to make sure that their supporters are horrified that a brown person is coming to kill them, because imagine how it would sound if they talked about anything with a basis in reality. As for Lara Trump's tenuous grasp of history, maybe one reason she's pretending it doesn't exist is that history has seen her xenophobic rhetoric before, and it doesn't reflect well on those who use it.